Amara's fingers moved slowly over the green scarf, feeling the cool silk between her thumb and forefinger. The boutique's soft jazz faded into the background as she studied the stitching, her mind drifting to memories of her mother's dress. Same color, same careful seams. She smiled to herself, lost for a moment in the comfort of fabric and memory. A shadow crept across the display. Lauren's voice sliced through the quiet. "Are you planning to buy that, or just touch everything?" The words were sharp, but her smile was practiced. Amara didn't flinch. She looked up, meeting Lauren's gaze with calm eyes. "Just checking the quality. My dad says you should always know what you're paying for." Lauren's lips curled. "This isn't a thrift store, sweetheart. Some of us actually buy here." Amara's grip on the scarf tightened, but her voice stayed even. "Good thing I'm not here to waste money." Lauren stepped closer, her perfume thick and sweet, almost choking. "You know, some people don't belong in places like this. Maybe you should leave before there's a problem." Amara's jaw set. "I'm not causing any problems." A sales associate glanced over, uncertain, but didn't intervene. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. Amara's heart pounded, but she kept her posture straight, refusing to shrink. Lauren's eyes narrowed. "Security's on their way. Let's see if you're still so sure of yourself, then." Amara let the scarf fall gently back onto the rack, her hand lingering for a second longer. She didn't look away from Lauren, not even as the tension in the room grew thick enough to touch. The silence between them said more than any insult could. Lauren's perfume hung in the air, sweet and heavy, making the space between her and Amara feel even smaller. Tasha, the store manager, watched from behind the counter, her hands frozen above the register. She could hear every word, but for a moment she just listened, weighing her next move. Lauren's voice was louder now, meant for everyone to hear. "I've seen this before. People like her come in, touch everything, and leave with whatever they want." Her words dripped with accusation, but her eyes never left Amara's face. Amara didn't move. She kept her hands visible, her voice steady. "I haven't taken anything. You can check my pockets if you want." Tasha stepped forward, clearing her throat. "Is there a problem here?" Lauren turned, her tone suddenly polite. "Yes, there is. I'm a regular here, and I don't feel safe with her in the store." Amara's eyes flickered to Tasha, searching for support. Tasha hesitated, caught between the customer she knew and the truth she saw. The other shoppers had gone silent, pretending to browse but watching every move. Lauren pressed on, her words sharp. "If you don't handle this, I'll call corporate. I know people." Tasha's voice was quiet but firm. "We don't ask people to leave without cause." Lauren's smile faded. "So you're just going to let her—" Amara interrupted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just wanted to buy a scarf." The silence that followed was thick, every eye in the store on Tasha. She looked at Amara, then at Lauren, feeling the weight of the moment settle on her shoulders. No one moved. The tension was a living thing, pressing in from all sides. Lauren's voice rose, echoing off the boutique's polished walls. "You heard me. I want her out. She's making everyone uncomfortable." Her words were sharp, slicing through the quiet. A few shoppers looked up, then quickly away, pretending to be absorbed in racks of dresses. Amara stood her ground, her hands at her sides, the green scarf still draped over her arm. She spoke softly, but her words carried. "I haven't done anything wrong. I just want to pay for this and leave." Lauren scoffed, turning to Tasha. "Are you really going to let this happen in your store? I spend more here in a week than she ever will." Tasha's face tightened. She stepped between them, her voice steady but tense. "Lauren, there's no reason to escalate. Amara hasn't broken any rules." Lauren's eyes flashed. "You're making a mistake. I know the owner. I'll have your job for this." Amara's heart pounded, but she refused to look away. "You don't have to threaten anyone. I just want to buy the scarf." The room was silent, except for the hum of the air conditioning. Tasha looked at Amara, then at Lauren, her decision clear in her eyes. "We treat everyone with respect here. If you can't do that, maybe you should take a break outside." Lauren's mouth opened, but no words came. The power in the room shifted, the balance tipping away from her. Amara's dignity remained, unshaken, her voice the only steady thing in the storm. A security guard appeared at the door, glancing between the three women. The moment hung, heavy and unresolved, as everyone waited to see what would happen next. The soft chime of the door cut through the tension, drawing every eye in the boutique. The security guard stepped inside, his uniform crisp, gaze sweeping the room. Shoppers who had been pretending to browse now watched openly, their curiosity barely hidden behind racks of silk and sequins. Lauren straightened, her confidence flickering back. "Finally, I'd like this girl removed," she said, her voice brittle but loud enough for everyone to hear. The guard hesitated, glancing at Tasha. "Is there a problem here?" Tasha shook her head, her voice low. "No theft, no disturbance, just a disagreement." Lauren's jaw clenched. "I'm a loyal customer. I expect to feel safe here." Amara stood quietly, her hands folded in front of her, the green scarf still draped over her arm. She didn't look at the guard, but her posture was steady, her chin lifted just enough to show she wouldn't be intimidated. The shoppers watched, some whispering behind their hands, others simply staring. The silence was thick, broken only by the faint hum of the air conditioning and the distant jazz. The guard looked from Lauren to Amara, then back to Tasha. "If there's no incident, I can't remove anyone." Lauren's face flushed, her certainty slipping. She glanced around, searching for support, but found only averted eyes and uncomfortable silence. Tasha's gaze met Amara's, a silent message passing between them, one of quiet solidarity. The room's energy shifted, the power Lauren once held now slipping away, replaced by a heavy, watchful calm. The door chimed again, but this time the sound carried a different weight. Something was about to change. The door chimed a second time, sharper now, slicing through the thick silence. Marcus entered, his suit immaculate, shoes polished, a name tag glinting on his lapel. CEO. He paused just inside, scanning the room. The tension shifted instantly, every head turning, every conversation dying mid-sentence. Lauren's face drained of color as she recognized him. Her voice, suddenly small, barely carried. "Marcus, I didn't know you were—" He didn't answer right away. His eyes found Amara, standing tall, the green scarf still in her hands. He nodded to her, a quiet reassurance passing between father and daughter. Marcus turned to Tasha, his tone calm but commanding. "Is there a problem here?" Tasha shook her head, relief flickering in her eyes. "No, sir, just a misunderstanding." Lauren tried to recover, her words stumbling. "I thought—" Marcus looked at her, his expression unreadable. "We don't judge customers by how they look, not in my store." Lauren's mouth opened, but nothing came out. The shoppers watched, the power dynamic shifting in an instant. The security guard stepped back, hands folded, waiting. Amara's grip on the scarf loosened. She met her father's gaze, a flicker of hope in her eyes for the first time since the confrontation began. Marcus's voice was quiet, but it filled the room. "If anyone feels uncomfortable, they're free to leave. Otherwise, let's get back to business." Lauren stood frozen, her confidence gone. The silence that followed was heavy, but this time it belonged to Amara. Marcus gave his daughter a small nod. The moment was hers now. The boutique's silence lingered long after Marcus's words, but outside, the world was already shifting. Lena stood across the street, phone in hand, her heart pounding as she replayed the video she'd captured. Lauren's sneer, Amara's steady voice, the moment the power in the room changed. She hesitated only a second before uploading it, her fingers trembling as she typed, "This is what dignity looks like." The green scarf. By midnight, the clip had been shared 1,000 times. By dawn, it was everywhere. The hashtag trended, not just in the city but across the country. People watched Lauren's face twist with entitlement, watched Amara refuse to shrink, watched Marcus reclaim the room with a single quiet sentence. The comments poured in, some angry, some relieved, some just tired of seeing the same story play out. Strangers began to share their own stories. A woman in Atlanta wrote, "I was followed through a store for touching a purse." A college student posted, "My mom always told me to keep my hands out of my pockets just in case." A father tweeted, "My son was asked for a receipt 3 times in one visit. He was 12. The stories multiplied, each one a spark, each one feeding the fire. The hashtag became a rallying cry, a place for people to lay down their burdens and be seen." News outlets picked up the story, replaying the video on morning shows, inviting experts to talk about microaggressions and implicit bias. But for those who lived it, the meaning was simpler. Someone had finally caught it on camera, and this time, the world was watching. Lauren's name trended, but not for the reasons she'd hoped. Amara's calm became a symbol. The green scarf a banner for everyone who'd ever been told they didn't belong. Lena scrolled through her notifications, the screen glowing in the early morning dark. The video's reach was staggering. Thousands of retweets, hundreds of comments, each one a small confession or a sharp rebuke. She read them in silence, feeling the weight of every word. "She did this to my sister last year," one tweet read, the anger barely contained. Another, "Rich white women never learn, they just get quieter." Lena's thumb hovered over the heart icon, but she kept scrolling, searching for something deeper. Some comments were colder, defensive. "Mistakes happen. Maybe the girl looked suspicious. People are too sensitive these days." Lena screenshot them, her jaw tight. She knew these voices, always ready to explain away, to protect the comfort of people like Lauren. A few replies cut through the noise. "My mom told me to never touch anything in stores, just in case. I work retail. We're told to watch certain people. It's wrong, but it's the job." The honesty stung, a quiet admission of how deep the problem ran. Lena paused on a thread where users debated whether Lauren should be canceled. One person wrote, "It's not about ruining her life. It's about finally being seen." Another, "If you're tired of hearing about racism, imagine living it." She copied the best lines, pasting them into a document for her next article. Her cursor hovered over "post," but she hesitated. The world was watching, but it was also judging, ready to turn on anyone who spoke too loudly or too soon. In the end, Lena hit send. The truth was out there now, messy and raw, impossible to ignore. She leaned back, letting the silence of her apartment settle around her, the glow of the screen the only light in the room. Outside, the city was waking up, and nothing would be quite the same. The morning news played on low in Marcus's office, but his mind was far away. He stared at the trending hashtag. The video paused on Lauren's face, and suddenly, another memory surfaced. One he'd tried to forget. It was 2018. Lauren's house, a summer afternoon. Rosa, the nanny, stood by the kitchen counter, her hands shaking as Lauren waved a gold necklace in the air. "It was right here. You're the only one who's been in this room?" Lauren accused, her voice cold and certain. Rosa's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't take anything, ma'am. I swear." Lauren didn't listen. She called security, her words sharp and public. "Check her bag, check her pockets. I want her gone if she's lying." Marcus remembered the way Rosa's face crumpled, the humiliation burning in her cheeks. Security searched her, found nothing. Hours later, the necklace turned up in Lauren's gym bag, tangled with her headphones. She never apologized. She never even looked Rosa in the eye again. Now, as Marcus watched the video of his daughter standing tall, he saw Rosa's face blur into Amara's. The same fear, the same quiet dignity. He wondered how many times Lauren had done this, how many times she'd been believed, just because she was loud and certain and white. He closed his eyes, the memory heavy. He thought of Rosa's silence, the way she'd left without a word, her pride in pieces. He thought of Amara, refusing to shrink, refusing to let Lauren's voice be the only one heard. The past and present overlapped, the same story playing out in different rooms, with different names. Marcus opened his eyes, resolving hardening in his chest. This time he wouldn't let it end in silence. He picked up his phone, dialing a number he hadn't called in years. "Rosa? It's Marcus. I just wanted to say, I remember. And I'm sorry." Marcus sat at his desk, Amara's photo propped up beside his laptop. She was smiling in the picture, her hands clutching a trophy from her school's math competition. The green scarf lay folded next to it, a quiet reminder of the storm they'd just weathered. He stared at the scarf for a long moment, his mind drifting back to another time, another fight. It was 1995. Marcus was 18, standing in the cramped living room of their one-bedroom apartment. His mother sat at the dining table, her sewing machine humming softly. She worked late into the night, stitching together scraps of fabric to create a suit for Marcus's first job interview. Her hands moved quickly but clumsily, her fingers swollen and cracked from years of cleaning houses. "Wear it like armor," she said, not looking up from her work. "The world won't give you anything, Marcus. You have to take it." Marcus watched her hands tremble as she threaded the needle again. He wanted to tell her to stop, to rest, but he knew she wouldn't listen. She'd sacrificed everything, her health, her dreams, to make sure he had a chance. The suit wasn't perfect, the seams were uneven, and the fabric was cheap. But when Marcus wore it to his interview, he felt invincible. He got the job that day, and every success he'd had since was built on the foundation of his mother's sacrifice. Now, as he looked at Amara's photo and the green scarf beside it, Marcus felt that same weight, the responsibility to protect what his mother had fought so hard to give him. Amara was his legacy, his proof that dignity could survive even the harshest storms. He picked up the scarf and tucked it into his briefcase. Armor worked, he whispered to himself. The fight wasn't over, but this time he wouldn't let anyone take what his family had built. Tasha sat across from Lena in the back office, the hum of the store's air conditioning barely masking the tension. A thick folder rested between them, its edges worn from being handled too many times. Tasha's hands hovered over it, uncertain, before finally pushing it across the table. Lena opened the folder, her eyes scanning the pages. Incident reports, customer complaints, handwritten notes. Each one told a similar story. Lauren accusing, Lauren demanding, Lauren's word taken as truth. 3 separate incidents, 3 different women, all quietly dismissed by corporate. "They said she spent too much to lose," Tasha whispered, her voice tight. "Every time I tried to escalate, I got the same answer. She's a valued customer. Handle it quietly." Lena's pen tapped against her notebook. "Did you ever see any consequences?" Tasha shook her head. "Nothing. The women she accused, one was banned, another quit her job, the last one just stopped coming in. Lauren never even got a warning." Lena's jaw clenched. "And the corporate knew?" Tasha nodded. "They always know. They just don't care. Until it's public." A silence settled between them, heavy with years of frustration. Lena closed the folder, her decision made. It's time to bankrupt her credibility. Tasha looked relieved, but also afraid. "You think it'll work?" Lena met her gaze, steady and determined. "It has to. People need to see the pattern. Not just one bad day, years of it." Tasha exhaled, her shoulders sagging. "I just want it to stop. For good." Lena stood, tucking the folder under her arm. "It will. But it starts with someone telling the truth." As Lena left the office, Tasha sat in the quiet hope and fear warring inside her. For the first time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, the silence was finally breaking. Daniel sat alone at the kitchen table, the glow of his phone the only light in the room. He scrolled through missed calls, 12 from Lauren, all unanswered. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that made every small sound feel loud. He started to type a message. "We need to talk." His thumb hovered over send, but he deleted it, the words vanishing as quickly as they'd appeared. He opened social media, searching for the green scarf. The video played again. Lauren's voice, sharp and certain. Amara's calm reply. The shift in the room when Marcus entered. Daniel watched it twice, then a third time. his stomach twisting tighter each time Lauren's face filled the screen. He scrolled through the comments, some furious, some mocking, some just tired. One caught his eye. Her husband probably enables her. Daniel stared at it, feeling exposed, as if someone had looked straight through the screen and seen him sitting there, silent and complicit. He started to type again. "Lauren, you need to apologize. This isn't going away." But he stopped, erasing the message before it could become real. He thought about all the times he'd watched Lauren talk over people, dismiss waiters, accuse strangers. He'd always told himself it wasn't his place, that it would blow over. Now the world was watching, and his silence felt heavier than ever. The phone buzzed. Another call from Lauren. He let it ring, the sound echoing in the empty kitchen. He closed the app, set the phone face down, and stared at the dark window. His own reflection, looking back at him. Daniel realized that sometimes not saying anything was the loudest choice of all. Marcus sat at the end of the long, polished table, the city skyline stretching behind him. The boardroom was filled with tense faces, directors, lawyers, a few senior managers shifting in their seats. The air was thick with unspoken worry, the kind that made every cough or shuffle sound like a threat. A corporate lawyer cleared his throat, voice low. "The board wants this handled quietly, Marcus. We can't afford more bad press. Maybe a statement, a donation, something to calm things down." Marcus didn't look up from the folder in front of him. He ran his thumb along the edge, thinking of his mother's hands, Amara's steady eyes, the green scarf folded in his briefcase. He let the silence stretch, making them wait. Finally, he spoke, his voice even. "Tell them quiet died with my mother's dignity. We're not sweeping this under the rug." A director shifted, uncomfortable. "Lauren's family has been with us for years. Are you sure you want to—" Marcus cut him off, his tone sharper now. "I'm sure. If we keep protecting people like her, we're no better than the problem." The lawyer sighed, glancing at the others. "They'll cut ties with Lauren's family. It won't be pretty." Marcus nodded. "Then let it be ugly, but let it be honest." The room fell silent, the weight of his words settling over everyone. For a moment, no one moved. The old rules, protect the powerful, keep the peace, felt suddenly fragile, exposed. A manager finally spoke, voice barely above a whisper. "What do we tell the staff?" Marcus looked up, meeting his gaze. "Tell them the truth, and tell them it's about time." As the meeting ended, the boardroom emptied quietly, the old alliances already starting to unravel. Marcus stayed behind, watching the city lights flicker, knowing that real change always started with someone refusing to stay silent. Amara sat on the edge of her bed, the green scarf folded neatly in her lap. The house was quiet, her phone buzzing, with notifications she ignored. She stared at the scarf, her jaw tight, replaying Lauren's words in her mind. Each one a bruise that didn't show. She wanted to scream, to throw something, but instead she just pressed her lips together and breathed. Marcus knocked softly on her door, stepping inside when she didn't answer. He sat beside her, careful not to crowd her space. "You okay?" he asked, voice gentle. Amara nodded, but her eyes stayed fixed on the scarf. "I'm fine," she said, but the words sounded thin, almost brittle. Marcus waited, letting the silence stretch. He knew better than to push. After a moment, Amara spoke again, her voice low. "It's always the same. They look at me and see a problem, even when I do everything right." He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Not out of anger, but out of exhaustion. "I just want to be left alone," she whispered. Marcus nodded, understanding. "You don't have to fight every battle, but you don't have to hide either." Amara looked at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I'm not hiding, I want them to see what they did. I want them to feel it." Later, when Marcus left, Amara picked up her phone. She opened her messages and typed to Lena, "Post the video again, tag the store, don't let them forget." She hit send, her hands steady now. She placed the scarf in a box, closed the lid, and set it on her desk. A small act of control in a world that kept trying to take it away. In the quiet, her anger settled into something sharper. Resolve. Lauren scrolled through her phone, thumb moving faster with every unanswered message. The group chat, once a constant stream of brunch plans and inside jokes, was silent. She checked the calendar again. Celia's luncheon, a yearly tradition. No invite, no reminder. Just photos posted hours later, everyone smiling, glasses raised, her seat at the table conspicuously empty. She called Celia, but it went straight to voicemail. "Hey, it's Lauren. I think I missed the invite. Call me back." She hung up, her voice cracking on the last word. She tried the group chat. Did I miss something? The message sat unread, a gray bubble in a sea of blue. Lauren's husband, Daniel, walked in, glancing at her phone. "Everything okay?" he asked, but his tone was distant, distracted. She forced a smile. "Just a mix-up. I'm sure they'll call." He nodded, not meeting her eyes. "I'm heading out." As the door closed behind him, Lauren scrolled through social media. The luncheon photos were everywhere. Underneath, comments buzzed. "Did you see the video? So embarrassing. Some people never change." She typed a reply, then deleted it. She tried again, but the words wouldn't come. Her hands shook as she set the phone down, the silence in the room pressing in. She checked her messages one more time. Nothing. No calls, no texts, no invitations. Her name, once a fixture in every plan, was now a ghost in their threads. Lauren stared at her reflection in the window, the afternoon sun catching the lines around her eyes. For the first time, she realized the world was moving on without her, and no amount of money or apologies could buy her way back in. She turned away from the window, the laughter from the luncheon echoing in her mind, a reminder of everything she'd lost. Lena sat hunched over her laptop, the only light in her apartment coming from the screen. The city outside was quiet, but her mind raced as she dug deeper into Lauren's past. She scrolled through old college yearbooks, alumni newsletters, and social media posts, piecing together a timeline of privilege and entitlement. She found a post from 2010. Lauren, smiling with a group of friends, captioned, "Diversity quotas ruin meritocracy." Lena's jaw tightened. She clicked through more photos, each one a snapshot of a life untouched by consequence. Fundraisers, galas, vacations. Lauren always at the center, always surrounded by the same faces. Lena opened a forum thread from years ago. Someone had written, "Lauren Whitaker's dad bought her way into the honors program." The replies were a mix of agreement and denial, but the pattern was clear: money, connections, and a last name that opened every door. She took screenshots, saving them in a folder labeled Receipts. She zoomed in on Lauren's comments, reading them aloud in a whisper. "Meritocracy. Your daddy's donations got you here." The words tasted bitter. Lena paused, rubbing her eyes. She thought about Amara, about the green scarf, about all, the girls who never got a second chance. She wondered how many times Lauren had been given the benefit of the doubt, how many times someone else had paid the price for her mistakes. She drafted a message to Marcus. "Found more. It's not just the store, it's everywhere." Before sending, she hesitated, feeling the weight of what she was about to unleash. But the truth was too important to keep hidden. She hit send, her resolve hardening. As the clock ticked past midnight, Lena leaned back, the glow of the screen reflecting in her tired eyes. She knew the story was bigger than one incident. It was a lifetime of doors opened for some and slammed shut for others. Tasha waited until the store was empty, the last customer's footsteps fading into the night. She locked the doors, heart pounding, and made her way to the back office. The security monitor glowed in the dark, a silent witness to everything the boutique had seen and hidden. She scrolled through the archives, searching for the date she remembered all too well. There it was, Lauren standing by the handbag display, her voice raised just enough to draw attention. A teenage girl, maybe 16, stood frozen, eyes wide as Lauren pointed at her. She was breathing too close to the bags. I saw her touch. "One," Lauren insisted, her tone sharp and public. The footage showed the girl backing away, hands up, face burning with shame. Tasha watched as Lauren waved over a sales associate, demanding the girl be watched, then escorted out. The girl left in tears, the rest of the shoppers pretending not to notice. Tasha's hands shook as she copied the footage onto a flash drive. She labeled it Exhibit B, her handwriting tight and angry. She slipped the drive into an envelope, addressed it to Marcus, and sealed it shut. Before leaving, Tasha paused, staring at the monitor. She thought about all the times she'd been told to let things go, to keep the peace, to protect the store's reputation. She thought about the girls who'd left in silence, their stories erased by a system that always believed the loudest voice. She turned off the monitor, the office suddenly too quiet. As she walked out, the envelope clutched in her hand, Tasha felt a strange mix of fear and relief. This time, the truth wouldn't be buried. She dropped the envelope in the outgoings. Mail. Her steps lighter than they'd been in weeks. For the first time, she felt like she was doing more than just surviving. She was fighting back. The boardroom was unusually quiet, the usual chatter replaced by the hum of phones and the distant echo of news anchors repeating the same headline. Haunts, the green scarf, shakes the corporate world. Marcus sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable as he scrolled through the latest updates. The company's stock had dipped, and the board's group chat was filled with panic. A senior board member, Mr. Caldwell, stood up, his resignation letter trembling in his hand. He cleared his throat, voice rough. "I can't be part of this anymore. I won't back a bully, not after what's come to light." He placed the letter on the table, his gaze meeting Marcus's for a brief, meaningful second. The room was still. No one argued. No one tried to stop him. Caldwell gathered, his footsteps echoing as he left the room. The silence that followed was heavy, a quiet judgment on years of looking the other way. Moments later, Marcus's phone buzzed. Lauren's father's name flashed on the screen. He answered, keeping his tone even. "Yes? This is a witch. Hunt, Marcus. You're destroying my family's name over a misunderstanding. You'll regret this." Marcus didn't flinch. "I'm not destroying anything, I'm just not hiding it anymore." There was a pause, then the call ended abruptly. Marcus set the phone down, a small, tired smile breaking through for the first time that day. He looked around the boardroom, seeing the uncertainty in the faces of his colleagues. The old rules, protecting the powerful, keeping secrets, were crumbling. One resignation had started a ripple, and Marcus knew more would follow. He stood, straightening his jacket, and walked to the window. The city below was changing, and, for the first time, he felt like he was part of that change, not just for Amara, but for everyone who'd ever been told to stay quiet. The press room was packed, cameras flashing as Marcus stepped up to the podium. The air buzzed with anticipation, reporters jostling for position, their questions already loaded. Marcus adjusted the microphone, his face calm but resolute. He scanned the crowd, pausing when he saw Amara near the back, her green scarf a quiet beacon in the sea of faces. He began, voice steady. "Today, we announce a new chapter for this company. Effective immediately, we are instituting mandatory bias training for all employees, establishing a public accountability board, and creating a victim compensation fund for those harmed by discrimination in our stores." A murmur rippled through the room. A reporter called out, "Is this just PR, Mr. Johnson, or is it a real change?" Marcus didn't flinch. He looked directly at Amara, then back at the cameras. "Justice isn't a trend, it's a promise. We failed to protect our customers and our staff. That ends now." Another reporter pressed, "What about those who say you're only doing this because you got caught?" Marcus's jaw tightened, but his voice remained even. "We're doing this because it's right, because silence is complicated, because my daughter, and every person who's ever been made to feel less than, deserves better." The room quieted. the weight of his words settling over the crowd. Amara's eyes shone with pride, her father's resolve echoing in her own heart. A final question. Will there be consequences for those responsible? Marcus nodded. There will be accountability. No exceptions. He stepped back from the podium, the cameras still clicking, the reporters still shouting. But the message was clear. This wasn't about saving face. It was about changing the story. As Marcus left the stage, he caught Amara's eye. She nodded, a silent thank you passing between them. The world was watching, and this time, it would not look away. The charity gala was in full swing. The room, glittering with chandeliers and the soft clink of champagne glasses. Guests mingled in designer gowns and tailored suits, their laughter floating above the jazz band's smooth melodies. It was the kind of event Lauren had always dominated. A front-row seat, a spotlight on her every move. But tonight, her absence was louder than any presence could have been. Celia, Lauren's closest friend, or so Lauren had thought, stood near the bar, whispering to another guest. "She's abroad," Celia said casually, sipping her drink, "taking some time away." The guest raised an eyebrow but said nothing, their silence speaking volumes. At the registration table, a waiter cleared Lauren's name tag from the front row seat she'd always claimed. He tossed it into a box labeled Donor History, the sound of plastic hitting cardboard sharp and final. Marcus entered the room, his presence commanding but understated. He scanned the crowd, noting the subtle shifts, the way people avoided mentioning Lauren's name, how her usual circle seemed smaller, more fragmented. He didn't smile, but there was a quiet satisfaction in his eyes. Meanwhile, Amara stood near the art display, her green scarf catching the light as she admired a painting. A guest approached her hesitantly. "You're Marcus Johnson's daughter, aren't you?" Amara nodded, her voice steady. "I am." The guest smiled warmly. "That video. It was powerful. You were powerful." Amara didn't reply immediately. She glanced at her father across the room, then back at the guest. "It wasn't just me," she said softly. "It was everyone who's ever been told to leave." Lauren's name wasn't mentioned again that night. Her absence hung over the gala like a shadow, unspoken but undeniable. As Marcus and Amara left together, the box labeled Donor History sat forgotten under the table, its contents already gathering dust. The boardroom was tense, sunlight slanting through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the polished table. Marcus sat at the head, his expression unreadable as the shareholders filed in, their voices low and urgent. The air was thick with anxiety. Stock prices had dipped, and the press conference was still the talk of every business channel. A senior shareholder, Mr. Hargrove, cleared his throat. "Marcus, these reforms are ambitious, but we have to think about the bottom line. Maybe we soften the language, delay the compensation fund." Marcus didn't blink. He slid a folder across the table, the movement deliberate. "Before you decide, you should see this." The room fell silent as Hargrove opened the folder. Inside were documents, bank statements, emails, proof of embezzlement tied to Lauren's family. The evidence was clear, damning, impossible to ignore. A younger board member looked up, voice barely above a whisper. "You're threatening us?" Marcus shook his head. "I'm giving you a choice. You back these reforms, or I release this to the authorities and the press. No more hiding. No more protecting the powerful." The tension in the room was palpable. Some exchanged nervous glances, others stared at the table, unwilling to meet Marcus's eyes. The old alliances were crumbling, replaced by fear and uncertainty. Hargrove swallowed hard. "Let's vote." One by one, hands went up. Unanimous. The reforms would stand. The compensation fund would be established. Lauren's family would be removed from all company dealings. Marcus nodded, his face calm, but his heart pounding. He knew this was only the beginning, but for the first time, the boardroom felt honest. As the meeting ended, The shareholders filed. Out in silence, the weight of their decision settling over them. Marcus remained seated, staring at the empty chair across from him, knowing that real change always came at a cost. The auditorium buzzed with nervous energy, rows of students and parents filling every seat. Amara stood backstage, her hands cold, despite the heat of the lights. She could hear the MC introducing her, the words courage and change echoing through the curtain. She took a breath, stepped forward, and the room fell silent. She gripped the microphone, her voice steady but soft. I was told to leave a store because of how I looked. I wasn't surprised. I was tired. The audience leaned in, the weight of her words settling over them. She paused, searching the crowd for her father. Marcus sat near the front, his eyes never leaving hers, pride and worry mingling in his gaze. Amara continued, her voice gaining strength. Racism isn't a mistake. It's a choice you rehearse daily. It's in the looks, the whispers, the doors that close before you even reach them. A hush swept the room. In the wings, Lauren's cousin, who had come to support a friend, opened her phone to draft a tweet defending Lauren. But as Amara spoke, her fingers froze above the screen. Amara's words cut through the silence. We're told to be quiet, to be grateful, to not make trouble. But silence is just another way to say you agree. She let the words hang, the microphone trembling slightly in her hand. I'm not here to make you comfortable. I'm here to make you see. The crowd erupted in applause, some standing, others wiping away tears. Amara stepped back, her heart pounding, the mic still warm in her palm. Backstage, Lauren's cousin deleted her half-written tweet, the urge to defend replaced by a quiet, uneasy shame. As Amara left the stage, Marcus met her with a hug, his voice low. You did more than speak. You changed something. Amara nodded, her resolve stronger than ever. Daniel sat at the lawyer's desk, the divorce papers spread out before him. The room was quiet except for the ticking of a wall clock and the faint scratch of the attorney's pen. He stared at the line where his signature was needed, Lauren's name printed neatly above his own. His hand hovered, the pen trembling just, enough to betray the storm inside. The lawyer cleared his throat, voice gentle. She'll fight this, you know. Daniel nodded, not looking up. Let her. His voice was flat, tired. He thought of all the years he'd spent smoothing things over, making excuses, telling himself it was just Lauren's way. He remembered the video, the comments, the way his phone had lit up with messages from friends and strangers alike. He remembered the silence at home, the way Lauren's presence filled every room with tension. He signed his name, the ink dark and final. The notary stamped the page, the sound echoing louder than their wedding vows ever had. The lawyer slid the papers into a folder. You're free to go. Daniel stood, gathering his coat. He hesitated, then asked, Do you think people can really change? The lawyer paused, considering. Some do. Some just get better at hiding. Daniel nodded, the answer settling heavy in his chest. He left the office, stepping into the cold afternoon air. He checked his phone. Another missed call from Lauren. Another message unread. He didn't respond. He just kept walking, the city moving around him, indifferent and alive. As he reached the corner, he looked back once, the building already fading into the background. He felt lighter, but also emptier, as if something had been cut away that he'd never really needed. For the first time in years, Daniel didn't feel responsible for Lauren's choices. He just felt done. The office was quiet. The only sound the soft tapping of keys as Marcus's assistant updated the investor roster. The list was long, but one name stood out. Lauren's family. Their legacy woven into the company's history. For decades. Marcus stood behind the desk, arms crossed, watching as the assistant highlighted the name and pressed delete. An email pinged almost immediately. The subject line was blunt. You'll regret this. Marcus opened it, reading the terse message from Lauren's father. The words were sharp, full of old entitlement and new anger. He didn't bother to reply. Instead, he forwarded the email to legal, typing a short note. Add to Exhibit A. The assistant looked up, uncertain. That's it? After all these years? Marcus nodded. That's it. We move forward. The news spread quickly. In the break room, employees whispered, some relieved, others stunned. For years, Lauren's family had been untouchable, their influence a shadow over every decision. Now, with a few keystrokes, that shadow was gone. A junior manager approached Marcus in the hallway, voice low. Does this mean things are really changing? Marcus met his gaze, steady and unflinching. It means we're not afraid to do what's right. Not anymore. The manager nodded, a small smile breaking through. About time. As the day went on, the company's mood shifted. The old fear, the sense that some people were above consequences, began to fade. In its place was something new. Hope, cautious but real. Marcus returned to his office, closing the door behind him. He sat at his desk, letting the silence settle. The purge wasn't just about one family. It was about drawing a line, about proving that no one was too powerful to be held accountable. He glanced at the empty space on the roster, feeling the weight lift, if only a little. Tasha stood in front of her new office door, the gold letters, spelling out Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion. She traced the title with her finger, hardly believing it was real. For years, she'd watched others get promoted, watched complaints disappear, watched Lauren's favorites fill the shelves while voices like hers were ignored. Now, everything feels different. Her first act was swift. She drafted a memo to the buying team. Effective immediately, we are ending contracts with vendors who have ignored or dismissed discrimination complaints. Replace Lauren Whitaker's preferred designer with a Black-owned brand. Quality over pedigree. She read it twice, then hit send, her heart pounding. The response was immediate. Some vendors protested, emails flooding her inbox with pleas and excuses. Tasha replied to each one with the same line, "We're building something better. If you can't be part of that, we'll move on without you." In the hallway, a few colleagues stopped her, their congratulations genuine but tinged with surprise. "Didn't think they'd ever let someone like us make the calls," one whispered. Tasha smiled, her confidence growing. "They didn't. We took it." She walked the sales floor, noticing the changes already taking shape. New brands, new faces, a new energy. Customers lingered longer, conversations felt lighter. The old tension, the sense that some people didn't belong, was fading. Back in her office, Tasha hung a photo of her grandmother, who'd cleaned offices in the same city decades before. She whispered, "We made it, Nana, and we're not stopping here." As the sun set, Tasha looked out over the city, her reflection strong in the glass. She knew there would be pushback, knew the work was just beginning, but for the first time she felt like she was building something that would last. She turned off the lights, her steps echoing with purpose, ready for whatever came next. Lauren burst into Marcus's office, her hair disheveled and makeup streaked from tears. She didn't wait for permission to speak. "You've ruined me." Her voice cracked, echoing off the glass and steel. "My friends won't answer my calls. My family's name is Mud. You think this is justice?" Marcus didn't rise from his chair. He looked at her, calm and unmoved. "I think it's accountability, Lauren. Something you've never had to face." She slammed her fist on his desk, desperate. "You don't know what it's like to lose everything. I built this life. I gave to this company. I was loyal." He shook his head, voice steady. "You were loyal to yourself, to your comfort, not to the people you hurt." Lauren's breath came in short, angry bursts. "You're just doing this for show. You want to look like a hero." Marcus stood finally, his presence filling the room. "I want to make sure no one else has to go through what you put them through. That's not heroism. That's my responsibility." Security appeared at the door, silent but firm. Lauren's eyes darted between them and Marcus, panic flickering across her face. "You can't do this. You can't erase me. He met her gaze, unflinching. You did that yourself? As security gently guided her out, Lauren's protests faded into the hallway. Amara stood by the elevator, the green scarf draped over her arm. She watched Lauren pass, their eyes meeting for a brief, electric moment. Lauren tried to hold her head high, but her shoulders sagged. Amara whispered, just loud enough for Lauren to hear. Bye, Lauren. The elevator doors closed, sealing the moment. In the quiet that followed, Marcus exhaled, the weight of years lifting from his shoulders. For the first time, the office felt like it belonged to everyone. The story of the green scarf didn't end in the boardroom or the boutique. It spread, carried by students, artists, and activists who saw themselves in Amara's quiet defiance. The green scarf became more than a trend. It became a movement. Teens stitched scarves into protest banners, draping them over school fences and city statues. Each scarf was a silent promise. We will not be erased. Documentary crews arrived, interviewing those who had watched the video, those who had lived their own versions of it. Amara sat for one interview, her words simple but unshakable. It wasn't just about me. It was about everyone who's ever been told to leave, to be quiet, to disappear. Clips of Lauren's outburst and Amara's composure played on screens across the country. The narrative shifted. Lauren's name, once linked to charity galas and social columns, now appeared first in search results beside the words, racist incident. Her past, once carefully curated, was now public record. In classrooms, teachers used the story as a lesson. What does it mean to stand your ground? One asked. A student replied, it means not letting someone else decide your worth. Art. Galleries displayed installations of green scarves, each tagged with a story. Some short, some heartbreakingly long. The movement grew, not with anger, but with resolve. People found each other in the comments, in the marches, in the quiet moments. After the news cycle moved on, Marcus watched the documentary's premiere from his living room, Amara beside him. He saw the ripple effect, how one moment of dignity could spark 1,000 more. He squeezed Amara's hand, pride and hope mingling in his chest. The world had changed, not all at once, but enough to matter. The green scarf, once a target, was now a symbol of resistance, of memory, of a future rewritten by those who refuse to be silent. Morning sunlight spilled through the boutique's front window, casting a warm glow over the new display. Amara stood quietly, her hands smoothing the green scarf around a mannequin's neck. The fabric shimmered, no longer a symbol of accusation, but of belonging. She stepped back, checking the sign above the display. Inclusive luxury. The fuchsia's words felt right, simple, honest, and earned. Customers drifted in, some pausing to admire the scarf, others drawn by the story they'd seen online. A mother and daughter stopped, the girl's eyes wide. Is that the scarf from the video? She whispered. Amara smiled, nodding. It is. Would you like to try it on? The girl grinned, wrapping the scarf around her shoulders, her mother snapping a photo, pride shining in her eyes. Behind the counter, Tasha watched the scene unfold, her heart full. The store felt different now, lighter, safer, alive with possibility. She caught Amara's eye and nodded, a silent thank you passing between them. Marcus entered quietly, pausing by the window. He reached into his pocket, fingers brushing the worn photo of his mother, her hand-stitched suit a reminder of every sacrifice that had brought them here. He watched Amara, her confidence radiating, and whispered to himself, armor worked. As the day went on, more customers came, some just to see the scarf, others to share their own stories. The boutique buzzed with laughter and conversation, the old tension replaced by something new, community. When the last customer left, Amara locked the door and stood in the quiet, looking at the scarf one more time. She knew the fight wasn't over, but for the first time, she felt like they'd won something real. The green scarf fluttered gently in the window, its edges frayed but unbroken, a banner for everyone who'd ever been told they didn't belong. and a promise that here they always would. The cafe was quieter than usual, the morning sun slanting through the windows and catching on the empty table by the window. Lauren's table. For years it had been hers, reserved with a brass plaque, her favorite mug waiting, staff greeting her by name. Now a potted plant sat in the center, the reserved sign gone. The barista, who once memorized her order, dropped her mug into the donation box with a clink that echoed through the room. Regulars whispered behind their newspapers. "She's in Zurich, I heard," one said, voice low. "Or maybe rehab," another replied, not bothering to hide the smirk. No one mentioned the video, but everyone knew. The silence was heavy. A quiet verdict passed by the people who had once smiled at her every morning. A new customer sat at the table, glancing around as if expecting to be told to move. No one did. The barista brought over a fresh cup, setting it down with a gentle nod. The cafe had moved on, the old routines shifting to make space for something new. Lauren's absence was felt in every corner. The empty chair, the missing laughter, the way no one rushed to fill the void she left behind. The world she'd built on charm and control had vanished, replaced by a quiet that spoke louder than any confrontation. As the morning wore on, the cafe filled with new faces, new stories. The potted plant thrived in the sunlight, a small sign that things could grow where old roots had been pulled up. The clink of china faded, replaced by the soft hum of conversation. Life went on, and Lauren's table was just another seat by the window. Backstage, Amara's hands trembled as she adjusted the last green scarf on a model's shoulders. The room buzzed with nervous energy. Stylists whispering, cameras flashing, the low thump of music from the runway. She peeked through the curtain, heart pounding, as the crowd settled in their seats. Marcus sat in the front row, his eyes shining with pride and anticipation. The show began. Models of every shade and size strode down the runway, each one wearing a bold green scarf. The fabric caught the lights, shimmering with every step. The logo, a scarf twisting into a raised fist, stood out on every tag, a quiet declaration of strength and unity. A buyer in the second row leaned over to a colleague, voice just loud enough to carry. "This'll outsell Lauren's old favorites, watch." The words made Amara's breath catch, but she kept her focus, watching each model walk with confidence she'd only dreamed of as a child. The applause started slowly, then built into a standing ovation. Tears welled in Marcus's eyes as he clapped, his pride unmistakable. Amara stepped onto the runway for her bow, the green scarf draped around her neck. She looked out at the crowd, at her father, at Tasha, at strangers who now believed in her vision. After the show, reporters crowded around, asking about inspiration, about the meaning behind the scarf. Amara answered simply, "It's about belonging, about turning what was used against us into something beautiful." As the lights dimmed and the crowd dispersed, Amara stood alone for a moment, letting the reality sink in. Her collection wasn't just fashion. It was a statement, a promise, a new beginning. The green scarf had become more than a symbol. It was a movement, and Amara was leading it. Tasha sat at her new desk, sunlight streaming across the polished surface. The title on her door, Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion, still felt surreal. She opened her laptop, her inbox already filled with messages from vendors and staff. But her focus was clear. She drafted her first official email, her fingers steady on the keys. Effective immediately, we are terminating contracts with suppliers who have ignored or dismissed discrimination complaints. Attached are records of unresolved incidents, including those previously hidden. She attached the files, Lauren's emails, ignored warnings, the stories that had been buried for years. Within minutes, replies flooded in. One vendor wrote, "This is unfair. We've always supported your brand." Tasha replied with a single line, "Justice isn't negotiable." She sent it, her resolve unwavering. Word spread quickly. Some staff cheered quietly in the break room, others exchanged, nervous glances, unsure what the changes would mean. Tasha walked the halls, her presence a reminder that things were different now. She stopped by the display window, watching as a new shipment of black-owned designs arrived, replacing the old favorites Lauren had once demanded. A junior buyer approached her, voice hesitant. "Is it really over, the way things used to be?" Tasha nodded, her voice calm. "It's over. We're building something better." She returned to her office, closing the door behind her. For a moment she allowed herself to breathe, to feel the weight of what she'd just set in motion. Her grandmother's photo smiled down from the shelf, a silent witness to the change. Tasha knew there would be backlash, but she was ready. The first strike had been made, and there was no turning back. The company was hers to shape now, and she intended to make it a place where everyone's voice mattered. Marcus arrived early, the office still quiet, sunlight just beginning to warm the glass walls. He set his briefcase down and noticed a folded piece of paper on his desk, the handwriting instantly familiar. He opened it, reading Amara's words. "Thanks for fighting. Now I know how." He smiled, the kind of smile that comes from deep relief and pride. He tucked the note beside the framed photo of his mother, her hand-stitched suit now displayed behind glass, a reminder of every sacrifice that had brought him here. The office felt different these days, filled with the laughter of new hires, the energy of people who believed change was possible. Marcus sat for a moment, letting the quiet settle. He thought about the battles he'd fought, some loud, most silent. He remembered the nights he'd doubted himself, wondered if it was worth it, if anyone would notice. Now his daughter's words told him everything he needed to know. Outside his door, the company buzzed with new life. People stopped to greet each other, to share ideas, to laugh without fear. The old tension was gone, replaced by a sense of hope and belonging. Marcus placed the note in his top drawer, next to his mother's sewing kit. He ran his fingers over the worn fabric, feeling the connection between generations. His mother's strength, his daughter's courage, his own resolve. He stood, straightening his jacket, ready to face the day. The fight wasn't over, but for the first time, he felt like they were winning. The note stayed on his desk, a quiet promise that the lessons of the past would shape a better future. Lauren sat at the head of a long table in her sunlit dining room, the table set for 12, but only one guest had arrived. Her publicist, phone in hand, eyes glued to the trending page. The air was thick with the scent of fresh flowers and uneaten pastries. Lauren forced a smile, pouring mimosas into crystal glasses. "It's just a slow morning," she said, voice brittle. "People are busy." The publicist scrolled through. The green scarf, her expression unreadable. "Lauren, you need to apologize, publicly. This isn't going away." Lauren's jaw tightened. "For what? For defending myself? For being loyal to my friends?" She tried to laugh, but it came out hollow. "They'll come around. They always do." The publicist shook her head, standing up. "Not this time. People want accountability, not excuses." She picked up her bag, pausing at the door. "You can't brunch your way out of this." Lauren's hand trembled as she reached for her phone, scrolling through unanswered texts and missed calls. She typed a message to Celia, then deleted it. She tried Daniel, but his number was blocked. The silence was suffocating. She looked around the empty room, the untouched food, the empty chairs. The world she'd built, one of invitations, influence, and control, had vanished. She was alone, her voice echoing in a space that no longer belonged to her. The publicist's footsteps faded down the hall, the sound of the front door closing final and sharp. Lauren sat back, the mimosa pitcher cold in her hands, the taste of regret bitter on her tongue. Outside, the world moved on, the hashtag still trending, her name now a warning instead of a welcome. The boutique's window gleamed in the afternoon, sun drawing a steady stream of curious shoppers. Inside, mannequins of every size and shade stood proudly, each draped in a green scarf. The display was bold, unapologetic, a celebration of difference and belonging. Amara watched from behind the counter, her heart swelling as she saw people pause, point, and smile. A teenage girl pressed her face to the glass, eyes wide. She tugged her mother's sleeve. "That's the scarf from the video," she whispered, excitement in her voice. Her mother smiled, nodding. "Try it on. It's yours." Amara stepped forward, offering the scarf with a gentle smile. The girl wrapped it around her shoulders, her reflection beaming back at her from the mirror. Other customers gathered, some snapping photos, others simply soaking in the new energy of the store. Tasha moved through the aisles, greeting shoppers, answering questions about the new brands and the story behind the display. The old tension was gone, replaced by laughter and easy conversation. For the first time, the boutique felt like a place where everyone belonged. A reporter lingered near the door, scribbling notes. "What changed?" she asked Amara quietly. Amara glanced at the green scarf, then at the diverse crowd filling the store. "We did," she replied. "We decided to make space for everyone." As the day wore on, the boutique buzzed with life. The green scarf, once a symbol of exclusion, had become a badge of pride, a reminder that change was possible and that it started with a single act of courage. The store's new face was more than a display, it was a promise. Lauren sat on the edge of her bed, phone in hand, the screen glowing in the dim light. She scrolled through her messages, thumb hovering over Daniel's name. She typed, "We can fix this." Then, "Please." She hit send, watching the check marks appear but never turn blue. His red receipts were off, his silence louder than any argument they'd ever had. She tried again, her fingers trembling. "I'm sorry. I just want to talk." The message joined the others, unanswered, stacking up like bricks in a wall she couldn't climb. She blocked his number in a moment of anger, then unblocked it minutes later, staring at the empty chat, hoping for a reply that never came. The house was quiet, every room echoing with memories of laughter, of shared plans, of a life that now felt impossibly far away. Lauren scrolled through old photos, vacations, parties, holidays, her smile in each one a little more forced, a little less real. She checked her social media, the notifications relentless. Comments under her last post ranged from pity to outrage. She closed the app, unable to face the world's judgment, unable to escape her own. Lauren set the phone down, pressing her palms to her eyes. The silence pressed in, heavy and unyielding. She realized finally that some things couldn't be fixed with an apology or a well-timed call. Some things were broken for good. She lay back, staring at the ceiling. The unanswered texts a silent testament to everything she'd lost. The world outside moved on, but inside, Lauren was left with nothing but echoes and regret. The lights dimmed in the grand hall, the audience settling into their seats as the opening credits rolled. Marcus's charity gala had never felt so electric. Reporters, activists, and families all gathered to witness the premiere of The Green Scarf, the film. On screen, Amara's voice rang out, steady and clear, her story woven with those of others who had faced the same silent battles. Clips from the boutique played. Lauren's accusation, Amara's calm the moment the power shifted. The film cut to interviews. Tasha describing the buried complaints, Daniel's quiet admission of regret, even a former board member explaining why he finally walked away. Each story layered on the next, building a tapestry of pain, courage, and change. In the audience, Lauren's cousin sat near the back, shrinking lower in her seat as Amara's speech echoed through the hall. She slipped out before the lights came up, unable to face the applause that followed. Donations poured in as the credits rolled. Guests moved to tears by the stories they'd seen. Marcus stood at the podium, voice thick with emotion. "Every dollar tonight goes to scholarships and support for the next Amara, the next Tasha, the next voice that refuses to be silenced." Amara hugged her father, the green scarf draped over her shoulders. She looked out at the crowd, seeing hope reflected back at her from every face. The film's final shot lingered on the scarf, fluttering in the boutique window, a symbol of what had been lost, and what had been found. As the audience filed out, the hashtag trended once more, a digital chorus rising, "We see you. We hear you. We're with you." On a bright Saturday morning, volunteers gathered at the empty lot where the old precinct once stood. Shovels in hand, they worked side by side, turning hard earth into soft beds for flowers. Each plant was chosen with care: sunflowers for hope, lilies for peace, wildflowers for resilience. As they dug, they placed small wooden markers in the soil, each one bearing a name: Elijah, Rosa, and others whose stories had surfaced in the wake of the green scarf. Amara knelt in the dirt, her hands steady as she pressed a seedling into the ground. She paused, reading the name on the marker: Rosa. She thought of all the times voices like Rosa's had been ignored, all the times justice had been delayed. Today, those names would not be forgotten. Marcus stood nearby, watching the garden take shape. He greeted neighbors, shook hands with strangers, and listened as people shared their own stories. The air was filled with laughter, quiet tears, and the promise of something new. Lauren drove past once, her car slowing as she caught sight of the crowd. She recognized faces from the news, from her past, from the life she no longer belonged to. She didn't stop. She pressed the gas, the garden fading in her rearview mirror. By afternoon, the lot was transformed, a living memorial, a place for healing and remembrance. Children ran between the rows, their laughter rising above the hum of conversation. The garden was more than flowers. It was a testament to change, to the power of being seen and heard. As the sun set, Amara stood back and looked at the garden, the names shining in the golden light. For the first time, she felt the world making space for every story. The boutique was quiet in the early morning, sunlight streaming through the front window and catching on the new sign, "Everyone belongs here." Amara adjusted the green scarf on a mannequin, smoothing the fabric with careful hands. She stepped back, taking in the display. Mannequins of every size and shade, each one draped in a scarf that had once been a symbol of exclusion, now transformed into a badge of welcome. The bell above the door chimed softly. A customer entered, pausing just inside, eyes wide as she took in the scene. Amara smiled, her voice warm. "Welcome. Let me know if you need anything." The woman wandered the store, her fingers trailing over the scarves, her gaze lingering on the sign. She stopped in front of the mannequin, turning to Amara. "It's beautiful," she said quietly. "I saw the story online. I wanted to see it for myself." Amara nodded, pride and gratitude mingling in her chest. "It's for everyone." "That's the promise." Tasha appeared from the back, greeting the customer with a nod. The store filled slowly, people drawn by the story, by the hope that things could be different. Laughter and conversation replaced the old tension, the boutique alive with possibility. As the day went on, Amara watched the green scarf flutter in the window, its edges frayed but unbroken. She knew the fight wasn't over, but she also knew they had built something lasting, a place where every story mattered, where every person was welcome. The bell chimed again, another customer stepping inside. Amara smiled, her heart full. Here, in this small corner of the world, everyone truly belonged.